Steve, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Mark.
Another week has gone by and time ever moves on, and I thought we could look back in time, but not to do with anything where we're living now, because we're living in New Zealand, but back to the UK and the time we was in the Navy. You would have visited various places around Britain, Blighty.
Yes.
Have you got any memories? What was your funnest? Perhaps what was your most least likely to want to go back to?
I think that I'll start with my funnest.
Okay.
And the place that I really, really enjoyed as a run ashore was Newcastle.
Is that mine? That's mine as well.
Newcastle was such a good run ashore. I just loved it. And I really liked the Geordies, and I liked them so much that I ended up getting engaged to one. And, I just loved it. And I've just found it so vibrant and such a good crack. And the people were really welcoming, and I thought, as a young fella, I thought the eye candy was amazing as far as I was concerned back in the day. And goodness me, it was just good. It was just good. I loved it up there. And I was quite fortunate that, I was able to spend a fair bit of time up that neck of the woods, because obviously I met a young lady up there who I was with for some time. So it's great. Yeah, I loved it. Really enjoyed it.
Mine was Newcastle too, for two specific reasons. We may have talked about this on another episode somewhere. The women, I was in awe with them because we went in the winter and it was so cold. I was in jumper and coat, and yet these were going out in the skimpiest clothes and they didn't seem bothered by it. It's like, oh God.
Made of stronger stuff, mate. Made of stronger stuff.
Again, it's got that lilting accent that you don't really get in many places, and it's just wonderful to hear. But the second memory was that revolving disco I've told you about.
Yes.
And to this day, it just does my head just thinking about it. It really seriously affected me. I thought, how is it possible to be moved and not remember? But I didn't. It was just a revolving disco. It went from a DJ to a band, and I thought I'd left the premises and not remembered getting to the new one, but that wouldn't have been the first time that happened.
No, and didn't they have was it the Tuxedo Princess or something like that? Was that the ship that was berthed up in Newcastle?
Yeah. Isn't that where they filmed The Tube?
I don't know.
With Paulie Yates and...
maybe. Yeah. Was that Jules Holland?
Yeah, I think it may have been there.
Yeah, the Tuxedo Princess, that was a ship berthed on the side of the wharf there, wasn't it? And you'd go in there and and you'd have a big party up in there. Yeah. It was great. It was fantastic for the nightlife. Yeah. It was such good fun.
Yeah, fantastic.
Again, I mean, this is 40 odd years ago, mate. And you could get away with a lot more. And two, there was just less aggravation. You weren't worried about idiots, were you? If there's going to be a punch up, it would be fisticuffs. It wouldn't be somebody trying to stab you or do anything silly like that. Not as a rule, anyway. So it was much better era. It was great.
So where was your worst place then?
Yeah, in the UK. I'm not 100% sure what the worst place would be. I think when we spoke last time, I told you that I didn't like Weymouth. I didn't like Portland. I didn't see Weymouth as a particularly good run ashore. I know some people loved it, but that didn't do a lot for me. Helensburgh was not exactly the best run ashore when we were up in Faslane.
I've been there.
So, right. Yeah, that was not the best run ashore. Although the pub was very welcoming, but that was about it. There was a pub. And if I remember rightly, you had to catch a forbidden bus to it because it was like in the middle of nowhere. People were great. Pub was lovely. But it was just like, that's it. And so you get 100 odd Matelows all descending on one pub. It sort of ruins the ambience a little bit quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know about any specific place that I would say was bad, but I remember looking back, it really agitated me. So when we came back from deployment, you'd been away for months, you had channel night and you'd have a few tinnies, but then you'd get into the port. And I remember we anchored in Plymouth and we weren't allowed to leave. But you can go ashore. But you can only go ashore for 4 or 5 hours before you had to get back in the boat and back. And I was looking forward to meeting the missus, and I was seriously thinking, should I go off and meet her, or should I go back and just dutifully then go up the harbour? And I think the families came onto the ship and we went back somewhere again. That was annoying, because you'd literally been away for so long, and you could see the lights twinkling, and you could get ashore, except I couldn't, because I was on bloody duty. So it's like, it was a missed opportunity to go... No, I did go ashore. What am I talking about? I did go ashore. Had a couple of drinks, came back, but it was the fact of coming back early. You only got a couple of hours. And I only ever did that once, and it was just annoying.
I don't recall that. So would that have been after the Channel night?
That may have been on the Aurora. Someone remind me. And the other one was, for some reason, Campbelltown. How close was that to anywhere? It was on...
That's a good question. Oh, dear.
We anchored off Campbelltown once, and I think there's only one pub, and they went ashore and they drank it dry in about 2 hours.
Oh, gosh. No, I've got no idea where Campbelltown is, mate. Where is it?
It's in Scotland.
With a name like Campbelltown, you'd hope so.
No, that's right, yeah. It's opposite the Isle of Arran, but I don't know that long, rude-looking piece of land, what it's called. I got a map up and it's nothing showing. So if you type it in, Campbelltown, I think it's the Argyle Arms, if I remember, something like that.
Really?
Have you found it yet?
No.
Well, there you go. So we anchored off there. Generally, I thought that the British runs ashore were good. I enjoyed them.
I didn't do many British runs ashore.
No, I didn't. I must admit,
Because-
I didn't. I always deployed towards the Gulf.
That's
Or
right.
Europe.
Yeah, you and I tended to go east, didn't we? Some people would go west and do like West Indies and guard ships and stuff like that. But you and I, in our deployments, we both seemed to go east. And I didn't do a lot of Europe either in terms of the European coastlines either. I think in the UK, I obviously went up to Faslane, which is where I bumped into Helensburgh, did Newcastle, Liverpool, Portsmouth, Plymouth, Weymouth. I can't remember any other significant ports that I went into in the UK.
Similar, I did London. We berthed alongside on the Aurora of the Belfast.
Yeah.
This was 1981?
81?
82.
Probably 81.
No, it would have been 81. Freezing cold winter. And the area around the ship was just a wreck. It hadn't been improved much since the war. But great night out. Went North London with a guy, and he introduced me to some of the local pubs that he knew and discotheques where we perambulated on the dance floor. Cleared it, in fact. And that was good. But apart from that, yeah, Newcastle, I think, was possibly my best. Went to Hull once. Actually
Really?
turned out to be a good run ashore, yeah. And I always got sidetracked because telephone boxes were white. Something to do with a company that traditionally they're always white. But that was a good run ashore as well. That was not bad at all, I must admit. But you were miles from the town. You had to get a long taxi there. But of course, Plymouth, we know quite well. And Portsmouth, not as much as you do, because I wasn't really there much.
No, and I didn't spend, obviously I was based in Portsmouth, but I didn't spend a massive amount of time there because I was always at Footbin Sea. In the sort of 9 years that I did 5 years at sea and 18 months ashore on a foreign. So that's sort of like 6.5 years gone. And then you stick a year on with that training, that's 7.5 years gone. Then I'm probably at 18 months of landlubber time. I was pretty active in terms of getting around and about a bit. Plymouth was a good run. Portsmouth was good fun on a good night out. You'd always have a good time in Pompey. But I did enjoy Plymouth as a run ashore down the Union Street and all those old bars.
Boots, the region, the two trees.
Malthouse was another one down there, wasn't it?
I've got a memory of Pompey, though, that it was on the Aurora. There was a couple of us out, and we were late. And we were starving, and we had to go all the way up to Waterlooville, is it? To get a takeaway, which is miles away. And then we had to get the taxi back. And one guy, whose name I won't mention, David Stockford, are you listening? We got to he was so drunk, I had to literally manhandle him through the gates, all the way through the dockyard to where we were. And the ship, when we got there, was higher than us because of the whatever tide. And I had to get him across the gangway up to the top in one hand, I think it was my left, and my right hand was carrying the bag with all the curry. And of course, it was wet, and it got weaker and weaker.
Oh no!
Halfway up, the bloody thing broke, and all the curry went into the oggin. And I just left him on the thing. Oh, sod you! Just went straight into the back to the mess. That would have been the best curry I've ever had, David.
Oh mate, nightmare! Another man's rations.
Cost a fortune.
Another man's rations in the oggin.
Yeah.
Goodness me! No big eats down the mess from that night, matey.
No.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. I thought you were going to say, and this is an image that it conjured up in my head when I was slightly deviate from our initial topic here. But when I was on my CID course, I was on a sort of run ashore with some of the fellas in the town centre where we were, and we stopped at a kebab place on the way back. And this detective in training was shoveling this kebab down his throat, and as he was shoveling it down his throat, you looked at him, and then you looked at your mate and going, "Is he doing that?" And yeah, he really is doing it. And as he was eating, he was peeing down his leg.
Oh,
so he was just letting rip, and he was wearing these grey trousers, which were just turning darker and darker and darker, and then you just flick his right foot out to get rid of all the pee. And I'm like, mate, I'm an ex-Matalo, and that's disgusting. you are really disgusting. But he had quite a bad head the next day, that's for sure.
Yes, we won't remember some of the states that we got into. I saw a guy once sharted, and it was hilarious because literally splattered. Unbelievable.
It's terrible.
But anyway,
isn't it?
The things you get up to as young men. Not that, you're
outrageous,
proud of them.
mate. No, I'm not proud. Not proud at all.
So, British runs ashore. Great, but I think
top
for
one.
us, what's that?
The top one, Newcastle.
Yes, yeah, I do agree. That's one of the best runs ashore anywhere in the world.
Brilliant run ashore.
And I assume it's the same to this day, so I hope it is.
Yeah, I hope so as well. No, great. Really good.
All right then, matey. Thank you a lot. Thanks for the memories.
Thank you for the memories. Take care, old boy. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.